Okay, hello YouTube of America and the world. Mike Miller here, and I just invited somebody over to throw some chat questions my way because I hate just being all extemporaneous. I can't even think of the word. So let's see if he is ready to interact. Though it'd probably be better if you made an announcement ahead of time so all your Nerds fans could show up and make it a party. Yeah, well, you and me right now. And actually, I'm going to post this stream up. Oops. I'm going to post this stream up right now. See if I can get anybody else in here. See, live streaming right now. If anyone wants to chat in. Oh, you know what? I should post that on my Illustrator page too. Somebody that I used to know. All right, let's see. Sorry about this boring stuff. Not streaming right now. If anyone has any questions for the chat. All right. And let's go back. Got it. Jason, you are not in the chat room. Oh, there's nobody in here to apologize to, so. Micah, I hope you're not picking your nose because you're on live. You're on video. You picking your nose?
Huh?
You picking your nose?
No.
Anybody out there? Okay, let's see. Darn it, what happened to my Facebook? Okay, my Facebook seems to have died. I will have to create a new page. What the heck, man? Oh, for Pete's sake, what is all over my... I wonder if that came through. Somebody that I used to know. Okay, always interested in things like live chats on pros. Get asked questions. It's just me. I think you'll get bored pretty quick, but I'm very interested in what you're doing with your line of characters like Lone Star. Okay, you know what? Ask in the chat. Are you there? People are asking me these questions on Facebook, so that I have to stay on Facebook to answer. In the chat. Yeah, I only knew Tyrus because of, or Jason Robinson asks, or mentions that his wrestling knowledge stops at Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and Andre the Giant. I'm about with you. I only think that's Tyrus. It looks like Tyrus because of, Greg Gutfeld and his show and whatnot. So I have your link up. Okay, I will be responding to my link then. I will not be looking at my Facebook page anymore. So type something in the chat. Anything. Say hello. Is your chat not working? Oh, Jiminy Cricket. Howdy. All right, what was your question in regard to? Because I can look it back it up on Facebook. What you're doing with my line of characters, like Lone Star. Well, I do have a plan. I don't really want to make the entirety of my plans public yet, but I do have the foundation of an entire universe. And okay, big picture dream goal is that I want to start the foundation of a universe that in 20 years time, 30 years time will be competing with Marvel and DC on a grand scale. And Lone Star is Lone Star's my first shot out of the gate. I'm not however you want to say that. Sorry, I'm inking while I'm doing this. But yeah, that is my long-term goal. And I intend to launch Lone Star and maybe every subsequent book through a platform like Kickstarter, maybe Freestarter, maybe just Kickstarter, and get them funded and reach a new and different audience. Because I honestly think that the standard comic book audience is a it's an aging and dying beast, and the audience of comics for the next generation, they're all out there reading comics on their phones, not walking into comic book stores. And so I have game plans for all that. Trying to reach that kind of a market rather than just sticking to this insular. I referred to it as a snake eating its own tail the other day on my interview with V. Because honestly, that's what I think of the American comic book market. There's no outreach, and there's Marvel and DC certainly aren't making it any easier, even with as popular as their movies and TV shows have gotten. They're still not reaching out through comic shops to broaden their audience because all their comic books are catered to the 40-somethings, who got stuck on or got addicted to comics in the 1980s. Some in the 90s, so I guess maybe we have an extra 10 years there. You can ask questions while I'm talking, and it will... Nice. So how are you publishing it? Would you consider working with someone like Vox Day, or would you consider that too toxic? I don't know Vox personally, so I've never had the conversation with him. I've been approached a couple times by his people. But I've read some of what he's had to say online, and I just don't think that I don't know. I read something about him not being, or he posted some article and then seemingly defended it about how people are naturally disgusted by people of mixed races intermingling or marrying or whatever, or kissing on screen or whatever. He said it was a naturally disgusting thing, and I'm like, well, I don't know how big a fan he'd be of me because I'm a mongrel. So I'm already a mixed race, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the guy, so I hate to be too damn judgmental. Um, but I believe everybody's got a little bit of racism in them. We're all mutts. We're all racists, right? Especially the ones who proclaim we are not racist the loudest. Um, is that mommy? Okay. Looks like my wife is home. So, anything else? I thought Reisner was going to get in here. Oh, I'm doing it. There's my wife. Ain't she pretty? Somebody that I used to know. Let's get you want to see what I'm working on? Hard to see, maybe. It's a horde of vampires. I was doing something kind of funny. So Lone Star and his team of the Unknown Soldier Commandos have gone into a vampire's nest, and that's their job, is to kind of hunt down and dispatch vampire and other monsters and whatnot. And so, knowing that I'm going to be killing off, spoilers, I'm going to be killing off all these guys in the next issue. Should I not do spoilers like that? Mustache Man killed a vampire. That guy's name is Hothead. Okay, so anyways, knowing that I'm gonna be killing off all these guys, I decided that I was just gonna go through like all the old Hollywood vampires and not do direct ripoffs or anything, but just kind of do a whole crowd of vampires of different guys. Like, so hold on, let me see if I can show it to you a little better. So here I have an odd take on Nosferatu. This is Svarog, so he's actually one of the guys later in the book. Dang it, I can't remember what movie this one's from, but this is like a buffed up version of Kiefer Sutherland in Lost Boys, and this is kind of a take on what's his name, Louis from Interview with the Vampire. That's sort of a short-haired Celine from Underworld. Let's see. Oh, I think that's what's her face from Twilight. This is a chick from blank. I'm drawing some blanks. But yeah, I just looked up like movie vampires. The dude from Blade. Crap. Yeah, maybe I'll stick him in the back. I just thought it'd be funny because I'll be killing all of them. Again, spoilers. Sorry. So does Lone Star end up getting additional vampire powers? I am not spoiling the whole story. I'm just spoiling one part here. Apparently for only your benefit. So you're like the only person watching. What happened to Reisner? I thought Reisner was going to get in here. Maybe I should go harass him. Anybody that I used to know. Making faces, Isaac. Michael's just talking about wrestling. Nobody cares about wrestling.
Is it? Doesn't it look like it's not that much? But.
Actually, Kyle McGinnis is on. Kyle is Ed McGinnis's son, and Ed is the world's biggest
It looks like nuts, but
wrestling fan, so
it ain't
I could probably get him in here and
nuts.
go bug him. Yeah, I can't keep track of all your kids. Okay, this one is Micah. If you read Bless This Mess, you'll recognize that one. And that one's Isaac. And that's the play area / work area. Micah Life. Micah Life, yo. All right. So, yeah, I was asked what Lone Star was, if I could just describe it. And I said it was sort of a cross between Blade and Captain America and the Punisher. So yeah, I think that's a fair description. I don't want to talk about the whole thing. I can talk about his origin story, but I don't know. Maybe that would be spoiling things too, because that's kind of a fun thing about reading stories is learning the character's origins. That's why Wolverine sucks now. Actually, I can expound on that. That's my my gripe about mutants is that none of them have origin stories. I mean, they do, but it's all the same origin story. I woke up one day with powers, right? Prior to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby coming up with mutants, man, you had to come up with cool origins and backgrounds for characters so that they'd be actually interesting. And that's why you rather than you starting with an Avengers movie, you started with an Iron Man movie and then a Captain America movie and a Hulk movie and an Ant-Man movie, because all these characters had these great origin stories. And then you get to the X-Men and you realize that aside from Wolverine, who was really only interesting because nobody knew his origin, no mutants are interesting enough to have their own movie or long-term comic book series. I mean, Deadpool, but it's just because he's a smart aleck. Yeah, so I always think of, and I have this conversation a lot. I think you like Nightcrawler's story. Yeah, but Nightcrawler couldn't stand alone as in a comic series. They're, as characters, mutants. They're in general just not strong enough to maintain their own series. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions, but yeah, I think that was Stan Lee's great triumph and great failure at the same time, because he just didn't have to come up with great origins anymore, and therefore nothing that I can think of after the X-Men was really all that interesting. Someone will probably... Which of your characters do you want to work on next? Just focus on getting Lone Star up and running. After I finish Lone Star, because something that happens in this book directly affects another story. I want to do the story of the All-American Nuclear Family. And I do want to talk about it, but if I do, I'll spoil it. But I have been thinking about that story and how I want it to play out and how to make sure I don't do cliche storylines and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, All American Nuclear Family. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep that title. I think someone mentioned that Kevin Grievous had a Nuclear Family project going, but I haven't seen anything about it. Maybe it'll be a race to the gate. It's one of those parallel development stories, nightmare stories that I have too many of. In fact, Ray Park just emailed me last night because he and I wrote a screenplay for him called The Bouncer, and it was about this bouncer who, he'd been in prison and lost the chance to have a relationship with his daughter, and then he gets out of prison, military prison, and he tries to rebuild this relationship with his daughter and his ex-wife, and in the interim, he's a bouncer. And it's a lot more involved than that. And Ray sends me this. So we haven't talked about it in a while, but then he emails me last night, and he asks me, or he tells me that Jean-Claude Van Damme is doing a movie called The Bouncer. And then I looked it up, and it's this bouncer who went to prison, and then he has this 9-year-old girl, and he's trying. And I'm like, and my wife automatically is like, "Who did you tell the story to?" And somebody stole it, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's just parallel development. This crap happens all the time. I had a story called The Loop, about a time traveling, basically a time cop who, yeah. Oh, sheesh. Right. When I saw the commercial for Looper, I'm sitting there watching this commercial and just gritting my teeth because it's like, it's my story. No, not Time Cop, Looper. And then at the end, they said the title, and it was Looper, and and I like freaking flipped my lid. I was like, man, I mean, they didn't just do my story. I mean, I'm not saying that, Rian Johnson stole it. I mean, clearly he didn't. It's just parallel development. It happens all the time. But he got the name almost exactly what I named my story. Just like this freaking Van Damme thing. It got the name of my story. And then, I don't know. Maybe somebody is passing my crap around Hollywood without telling me. In fact, there is if you've ever read my book, Deal with the Devil, and then you go to, tell you what, go read Deal with the Devil. It's about an FBI manhunter who is, chasing this suspect, and the suspect traps him, and in order to get him to stop following him, he shoots him in the knee, right? And then the cop loses his. And then, later on in the story, the bad guy, comes back to ask him for help to solve a case. In my story, it's to save his sister, but then things get discombobulated. And then go watch a movie called Welcome to the Punch, and it's about this cop who's chasing this guy, this big bad guy, who, in order to stop him from following him, shoots him in the knee. And then later on in the story, he comes back to the cop to ask him to help out. It's like, yeah. And that came out years after my comic was published. So on that one, I'm thinking someone probably did just straight up steal my story, which is frustrating because I've had that story in development in Hollywood for like 10 years now. back in time and swiping my ideas. No, actually, the Looper thing is funny because I pitched that to who was it? Adam Sorkin? I'm trying to remember. It was I pitched that to like a director back in 2001, I think. And that's like literally the only guy I ever told it to. And it didn't go anywhere. So I don't know, unless he was having dinner with Rian Johnson and told him this idea that this random dude told him years ago, and then Rian ran with it, then there's no way to assume anybody's stealing my story. It's just parallel development. It happens all the time in Hollywood. There's only so many ideas in the ether that people can pick from. Yeah, it does sound suspicious, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Copyright all your work? Oh, hey, there's an idea. So, well, get Lone Star out before Disney makes a movie about it. I am going to get it out, and I'm not going to tell the story to anybody. So, unless they just want to copy the design, which they probably wouldn't. It's not the world's greatest design. I tell you, it's hard to do a patriotic character that looks without it looking derivative, the old stars and bars on Captain America kind of stole the show on that one. Although I also like Fighting Americans design. Who would I want to play him in a movie? What's his name? What's his name? Steve Hemsworth? Chris Hemsworth's brother. I think he'd be perfect. So back time. He needs some acting classes. Well, I don't know. I don't think I've seen him in anything. He's just got the look for it. Of course, by the time this gets made, it's probably going to have to be, if it's ever made into a movie, it'll probably have to be some new up-and-coming guy. Like 20 years from now. I'm certainly not going to ever count on anything from Hollywood happening. Yeah, like I said, I've had Deal with the Devil in development at one movie studio or one production company or another for, I think it's been 10 years. What is funny? Wish I could turn the camera down so you could see what I'm working on. Let's see if that close up. I don't know how that camera does on close ups. Scary. Thank you. So how'd you like the State of the Union? Turn this into a political podcast. Whatever you call it. Any other questions, sir? Already gave you my ramble. Pretty dang good, but Trump needs to work on his reading. It's pretty stiff. I don't care about his reading. I mean, you're right. He's no great orator, but look what that got us. I'd rather have somebody who's built on substance over image. Which reminds me, once upon a time, I wanted to start a comic book company called Substance. Actually, got a number of creators who were willing to be part of it. Let's see, James Daly, third, David Williams, Ben Herrera, Jeff Johnson. No, Substance was the antithesis of Image, and we wanted to do a comic book company with good stories, well-written stories, and good art instead of just good art, which is, man, I've got a ton of old Image books that I can't even read just because they're just not well written, I guess. So what happened? Takes a lot of money to start a comic book company. So there was no Kickstarter back then. Clever. Substance about drugs. Yeah, this was like 1997 anyway, so. We all have old Image books taking up space. Yeah. Yep. Very pretty books with very bad writing for, I don't want to say it for everything, but a lot of it's just dreck. And I'm not going to name any names or point any fingers because, there's still good people on there. But the writing was not their main concern. And neither was getting books out on time, I guess. It's funny if like Jim or Mark or Todd had just sat down and busted out, 8 or 10 issues of each of their books like that first year that Image came out, man, they would have had more money than they knew what to do with. I mean, like those first issues were selling in the millions for some of those books, and they just thought that ship was going to go on forever, so they just took their sweet time. I think 2 issues of Wildcats came out the first year. Something similar with Spawn. I think Eric and maybe Rob were the only ones actually pumping stuff out. Loved Wildcats. Wildcats was a pretty book. But, I mean, the argument that was back then still holds true. It was all just so derivative of, everybody just wanted to do their own X-Men team. That's one thing I don't want to do with my universe is just have derivative characters. That's why it's like, it's hard. I wanted to do a patriotic character. And I know I'm going to get those comparisons to Captain America just because he's got a star on his head. And Spawn. Oh, Spawn was so funny. You remember how Spawn started with the countdown where, Todd's big thing, from what I remember, I maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I remember Todd's big thing was, everyone at Marvel like they die and they come back to life, right? So I'm gonna have a character who has an energy countdown, and once it's hits 0, he's gone for good. And then it became this huge success, and he's like, "Oh crap, that's not good." Fell right back into the Marvel trap, or the I don't know, the money trap, right? It's like, don't kill the golden goose. Although honestly, I think he could have just done it with another character, just kept the Spawn mythos going with, and then just do different characters and stuff. Because I think my favorite Spawn book was Medieval Spawn, and that wasn't even, it was like almost an Elseworlds story. Of course, maybe it was because Brandon Peterson drew it. Success makes folks change their minds fast. Yes, it does. Never say never, right? Depends on the size of the check. I guess that's why it's important to have principles. I guess that wasn't really a principle. That was just a sort of a petty complaint. You mean Mage or Grendel? Grendel. I never read Grendel. I always thought he was a cool looking character, but I don't know why I never bothered picking it up. Grendel. Read it. Great character. I'll see if I can get around to it. I honestly don't read comics much anymore. Which is funny because when I was, 19, 20 years old and I met John Byrne for the first time, and he said that same thing to me. He's like, I don't read comic books anymore. I'm like, what? I'm like, how can you not read comics? And now I'm like 46 years old and I say the same thing. Been drawing these things for 26 years. I guess you're like, whatever. Although I know there's a lot of creators that still imbibe. Yeah, maybe I'll have to check it out sometime. It's he's Grendel. Oh no. I'm thinking of Mage. Mage is like Merlin, right, or something like that. Like the spirit of Merlin come back. I don't remember exactly. I don't know what Grendel is. Is Grendel like a power that goes from one person to another? King Arthur. Oh, the Bat's Excalibur. All right. Who? What are you watching? I don't know. My son is watching some anime. Oh, guys, it's 10:18. You need to go to bed. Poop yourself. Grendel's sort of like a cult of personality. Starts with one guy, and his legend inspires others after he's dead. Oh, that's kind of cool. So, so he'll never die, or he'll die, but his legend never dies. I like that. All right. Well, it's been 40 minutes. Unless you have something else inspiring you want me to ask, or you want me to answer, I'm gonna tap this out. Nope. All right. All right. Next time, maybe I'll. It's hard for me to schedule these things. So, but maybe I'll try to give everybody a little more notice later. Well, thanks everyone who bothers watching this later. I know Jiminy Cricket here. Jason's the only one who popped in for the live feed. We'll talk to you next time. Excelsior. Live long and prosper. Peace out. Yeah, man. Bye.